everyone, in today's video I'm doing another drawing ideas / ways to fill your sketchbook sort of video, and I'm going to be sharing 5 different fall and autumn themed art ideas. And as always with these sorts of videos, these are just ideas, ways to kind of get if you're struggling a little bit with what to draw, then maybe hopefully this video will be helpful and give you some nice ideas. And feel free to go ahead and change the ideas if you don't like exactly what I've drawn or you want to change it to suit your own taste, then go ahead. These are just ideas, these are just a starting point. So for the first page in my sketchbook, I'm drawing a load of, I call this page Goofy Pumpkins. So I'm just going to start out by sketching out roughly with my graphite pencil a load of different pumpkins. And I didn't spend too long on this. Some of the pumpkins are better than others. I spent about half an hour on each of these pages in this video, just to give you a little idea of the time put into each page. And so once I'd sketched them out with my graphite pencil, I went in with a Copic multi-liner, because I'm using a wet medium on top. I'm using the watercolour markers, and so I need a multi-liner that's waterproof, and the Copic ones are. And then I'm going to go in with the Mozart brush pens, and these are water-soluble watercolour markers, and I'm going to go in and just very simply colour in the pumpkins. And the way that I colour with these pens is that you can see I create these gradients by outlining the shape and then pulling the colour into the middle of the shape using a brush and some water. And this technique is really simple, so if you don't have a lot of time to spend on colouring, then this is so much quicker, I find, to create interesting textures and gradients than using alcohol-based markers. So I find that this is a really easy and simple technique, especially if you don't have a lot of time to spend on the colouring. And if you're interested in learning more about these pens, I actually do have a whole review video on them where I talk about them, do a demonstration, and show you all the different colours and everything. And I'll link that video in the iCard description of this one, in case you want to go check it out if you're interested. So once I'd coloured in the pumpkins, as you can see, I added some sort of brown speckles to the orange ones and just kind of tried to make them look semi-realistic. I know some of them are a little off in shape, but once I'd coloured them, I added some white highlights, and then I went in with a black liner and added my little goofy faces. So I did a variety of different ones. I did one where there's like the pumpkin is sort of almost got his eyes rolling upwards. I did another one that's obviously a lady pumpkin because she has these really big eyelashes, and I just sort of had fun doodling some kind of goofy faces in with the black liner. And I didn't end up outlining the pumpkins in black because I kind of wanted them to have a very soft feel so that the eyes would stand out strong against the pumpkins. And I think I really like this page. It's really cute and it's really fun and easy to do, and you could do this with any shapes you wanted. You could make loads of goofy mushrooms if you wanted. Anyway, so talking about mushrooms, this next page features a very large mushroom. So this idea for the next page is to take a shape, to colour it in, and then to doodle on top. To doodle inside of the coloured shape. So now I'm doing a mushroom here. You could draw whatever you wanted. I think a big pumpkin would look nice, a large coffee mug, a huge leaf. You could do a whole series of these. They're very simple to do. So I've drawn the mushroom out. I've drawn a few details inside the mushrooms. You don't want to go too crazy on the details. And then I just drew a box round it because I want to put a gradient background behind this mushroom, and I'm going ahead and colouring it in using the same sort of technique. So I'm going round the edge of the shapes, and then I'm just using the water and a brush to sort of just drag the colours into the middle, and I find that creates a really interesting and really easy gradient within seconds. So I was very pleased with how that all turned out, and I chose some, as you can see as I'm working through this book, I am sticking to a very similar colour scheme, which is red, oranges, browns, and these sort of kind of olivey kind of greens, not bright spring greens, but much sort of more muted. Anyway, so I went ahead a couple of times in with this and added some, you can add layers on top of layers with these pens, but they do reactivate with water. So you need to be a little careful that you don't move the pigment you've already put down when you're adding your shading. And I just simply did the gradient background the same way, added some colour, and then just pushed the colour upwards. So once it's all dry, I went ahead and I added all my inside details with a white pen, and this is, I really like how this turned out. And I went in with the white pen and I just doodled the entire inside of the mushroom, and it's a little bit like Zentangling, but I just ended up I almost just sort of drew flower petals inside of the mushroom, and then I drew little circles on the stem, and you can draw whatever you like, just sort of draw random little shapes, little squiggles inside of your shape. And I think using the white pen really makes it pop, but without distracting from the actual shape. I think if I went in with a black pen, it would distract too much from the shape of the mushroom, but the white pen has a subtle look, but it also looks just looks really cool as well. So for this next page, what I have here is an acrylic block. Now, if you don't have an acrylic block, any piece of plastic packaging will do. I even think you could probably use an old DVD packet, just something that's plastic that you can scribble colour onto. And what I'm doing is I'm going ahead and I've picked 4 colours, I think, green, orange and 2 browns, and just scribbled them out in different places over the block, and you need to evenly distribute the colours. And then once you have your colours scribbled onto your plastic packaging or your acrylic block, you need to spritz them with some water. And I have water here, this is normal tap water in a little spritz bottle, and you need to make sure it's really well spritzed, and then you just smudge it onto your page. And the idea here is to create a really interesting kind of textured background in your sketchbook. And just so you know that this sketchbook I'm using, I'll leave a list of all the supplies in the description box below, but this sketchbook is a mixed media one, and the paper is 250 grams, so it's like a watercolour. It is a watercolour paper, so that's why I can do these very wet techniques in this book and the paper doesn't curl. So what I'm doing with the background is I'm sort of drying it off in between, then I'm adding new layers, and the end result is really cool. I really love this it kind of looks like a big autumn splatter. And if you don't have these particular markers, you can use any type of water-based markers you want. You can use Crayola, you can use any felt tip pens that you can get from like the dollar store, or from very cheaply, those sort of €2 pack of pens. Any of those will work well. Just scribble them out onto the plastic, spritz them well with water, and then just smoosh them down on the page, and they'll create these really interesting effects. So what I'm doing now is I've grabbed a load of different leaves that I've drawn out on a separate piece of paper, and I've coloured them in with my Copic markers so that they'll stand out against the background. And if you live in a place where there are lots of autumn leaves lying down on the floor at this time of year, when you go out, you could go out and collect some and actually glue real leaves into the sketchbook in a little bouquet like this. Most of the trees where I live are evergreens, and there aren't really any autumn leaves out at the moment in that way, but if you do live in a place where there are, I think that would look really nice as well. So what I've done is I've drawn out a load of different leaves, and I've coloured some in green and some in browns, and I've got 4 big leaves and 3 big leaves and 4 smaller ones. And then I've also drawn a nice ribbon out just to tie together the bouquet, and I think this looks really nice, and it's very autumnal, and I really enjoy doing a little bit of collage in my sketchbook. So that's a very fun page. And those leaves I was using, they're actually a digital stamp set. They're on my Etsy shop. If you just like to get the leaves and not have to draw them, then you can go and check that out, and you can just print them out and cut them out and colour them in. So for this next idea, what we're going to do is we're going to draw out a favourite autumn meal or dish or food or drink. You could draw whatever you want. It could be pumpkin pie, it could be a cup of coffee, it could be these special cookies, whatever to you says autumn food. Draw it out. So what I'm drawing here is apple pie. I love apples, and making apple pie is something that I really enjoy cooking as well as eating. So what I started with was I drew a circle template. I actually just used a a roll of sellotape to trace the circle template, and then I drew the pie in the middle, and then I just drew the different ingredients around the side. So I've got apples, sugar, and for the flour I drew wheat, because otherwise sugar and flour are going to look very similar when you've drawn them out. Butter, eggs and cinnamon. And I actually think I would maybe put sultanas in my apple pie, because I really like sultanas, but I know it's not traditional, so I decided against drawing it out. But just draw the ingredients around the side, and then I just coloured them in, and then coloured the circle in the background. So the last thing that I did was to add black outlines to the pie and the ingredients, just to help them stand out a bit better. And that's quite a good tip, that when you're starting your outlining and your colouring, if you're unsure whether or not the black will be too dark when you're finished, I find it's much better to go ahead and to colour first, and then to go ahead and put the black in afterwards if you decide that it's necessary, because it's always easier to go darker than it is to go lighter when it comes to outlining. So anyway, this next page is a fun exercise that I do quite a lot, and it's really easy to customize to whatever you want. Actually, all the pages are very easy to customize, but this one is to draw a keychain or like a hanging ornament. And what I do is I just start at the top of the page of a circle to indicate the clasp, and then I just head downwards, and I sort of normally choose 3 different objects. So I've got spider beads, pumpkins and leaves, and then obviously I have the little normal circular beads, and I just head downwards, and I've sort of have fun designing like a keychain. And this is something that I do a lot when I'm not quite sure what to draw. It's sort of one of those go-to things that I like to doodle in my sketchbooks, and I kind of like to think that this keychain is something that a witch would have hanging off her backpack. Not that I think actually witches would have backpacks, but if they did, this is probably what they'd put. Anyway, which page do you like best? Make sure you let me know down in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you end up trying out any of these ideas, make sure you tag me on Instagram. And thank you everyone who's already sent me these beautiful pictures of your own sketchbook pages. I really enjoy seeing them, and if you do try it out and put it on Instagram, make sure you tag me. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment down below, and I will see you all next week.